Hi, my name is Randy King. I'm from Griffin, Georgia. I own a company called King Electric Guitars, LLC, and I build custom guitars. I got into music because my dad was a musician. He was a guitar player, and I'm the last of 5, so I had older brothers and sisters who were always playing albums, and I listened to all sorts of different things. I actually didn't pick up a guitar until I was 15. I was playing drums at about 13. And then I got into Van Halen, and mine was blown. The very first opening lick of Unchained by Van Halen was the biggest sounding guitar I had ever heard in my life. And all I wanted was like a Van Halen guitar. But I couldn't play Van Halen, but I could play Poison. And I also found out that if you could sing a Poison song, or if you could sing a Cinderella song and strum guitar, that the ladies liked it. I went from there and then got deeper into Steve Vai and Les Paul and jazz, and my musical tastes come from all over the place. My mom went through this phase of burning records. And so my brother had some albums that we hid, and we cut my mattress and hid them inside of my mattress. So I slept on that. I learned rock and roll by osmosis. So when I was a kid, there was a cover of Guitar Player magazine, I believe, that had Steve Vai on the cover holding a guitar that was just all flames. The whole guitar was just flames, and then a neck with some headstock. And I thought it was so cool, and I was like, hey, my dad can build furniture, we can build this. We always had planned on building a guitar. Unfortunately, it never came to pass. About 20 years ago, I went to see a luthier who's near me, and I said, hey, I want to get into this. If I show up and clean your toilets and scrub your floors and stuff, will you just let me hang out? He said, you don't want to do this, you don't make no money, don't waste your time, kid. And I left and said, well, whatever, I guess. He's the only one I know of. That was my only chance, I'm done. 7 years ago, my dad passed away. The day after he died, I said, man, I've got to do this. I keep talking about it, I keep thinking about it, but I don't have a shop, or I don't have this, and I don't have that. I went back to that same luthier and I said, hey man, I talked to you once before, I'm older now, this is something I have to do. And he said, okay, well here. And he handed me this tool and he had me fix my Gibson Les Paul that was worth thousands of dollars. I did it and he said, well, this may work out, call me next week. So I called him and he said, no, not gonna do it, not interested. That same day, I saw that somebody that I had played in some shows with had just opened a guitar shop. It's called Brown's Guitar Mill. I loaded up my family into this van that I had at the time, and we drove to Newnan, which was about an hour from here, and I begged for a job. All I wanted to do was build a guitar. That's all I cared about, was building a guitar. And after him letting me try certain things and failing, he finally said, listen, anybody can build a guitar-shaped object, and that's not what you want to do. You want to build guitars, you want to build things that people can actually play, not just a piece of furniture. 4.5, 5 years of an apprenticeship, fixing, repairing, doing all sorts of things, and then COVID hit. I had just gotten married, couldn't leave my wife with kids 6 days a week. We had just bought this house, came with this shop that looked nothing like this, and I built a guitar. Once I built that first guitar, it was on from there. My self-doubt kind of went away a little bit, and then I got my first guitar order. And at that point, I was like, well, I'm a company now. I'm trying to build a guitar that has its own looks, but is familiar. Kind of T-style guitars. I call mine the Taurus. The guitar behind me, I call the Futura. I'm trying to build a guitar that you can't walk into the guitar store and just pick up off the shelf. Whether that's one that I'm just building, as I call a spec guitar, that I'm just building to sell, or somebody comes in and I build them something completely custom. First thing is the meeting. We're gonna get together. Maybe they'll bring me some of the guitars they like. Maybe they'll show me some pictures of something. I need to know what they're looking for first. And then from there, I source wood, work all the wood, make my blanks for my neck and my body, and then I'll take my templates, lay everything out, I'll start milling. Once all that's done, it's time to sand. Once everything's sanded and finished, I will put the guitar together and I'll get what I call a rough setup. As I'm shaping the neck, I like to do that when I have a body that I can put the neck to, and then I actually will let the customer come in here and say, okay, it's too thick, it's too this, it's too that. We build a language where I know, I'll say, hey, what about the hips? And I'll tell them what the hips mean. And then he'll say, well, it feels too thick. And I'll shave a little bit off right there in front of them. They'll say it's just a little thick, but that's good. And at that point, I know I can just sand, and we've got a neck that they're gonna love. It's gonna fit their hand like it was made for them, because it was. I bought my first car at 10 years old. I bought a 1955 Oldsmobile that was an old custom lead sled that had no back seat. It was all customized, no door handles. It was a basket case at best. For a long time as a kid, I thought I was gonna be building custom cars. It's obviously gonna be part of my design style, part of what I like, part of the lines that I see. It's more influenced from cars than anything. So the Futura was something that I had been bouncing around in my head for a while. I didn't have the name. I knew that I wanted to make a LP style guitar, but in my own way. So I said, okay, some of the coolest LPs that I saw were things that had different headstocks. They would put the Firebird headstock on, or they would put a Flying V headstock. So I said, well, let's do that. The car that my dad and I owned just kept popping into my head for some reason, and it was a 1963 and a half Ford Falcon Futura convertible. As I was trying to sketch, hold up a picture of one of those cars, the curve that I was drawing was the taillights of that car. The body of the Futura is designed around a Ford Falcon Futura. So the Taurus is my take on the T-style guitar that has been made by hundreds and thousands of people. I took a T-style guitar and changed the line. I made it skinnier in the waist. I made it bigger in the hip. Again, I went to cars, that 79 Camaro, that jacked up look. I just refused to make copies of a T-style guitar. But I know how popular they are and I know how great they are, so I made my take on them. I have a new model coming out called the Space Dolphin. The design comes from my love of some of the crazy, wacky Japanese guitars that came out in the 60s. Some of the Taiskos and some of the Ks, they were taking what was popular here and doing their own thing, and it was a little wackier. My band that I was in for years, Red Rocket Deluxe, had a song called Space Dolphins in Space, because no one cares about space dolphins when they're not in space. It's gonna be a platform to do a lot of different things to, which is what all my guitars are in some sort of way. As my father was passing away, he was struggling. And I walked up to him and I said, Dad, we're in the Falcon. That was the Futura. And I said, I just want the tops down, lay back and go for the ride. So he influenced everything. Guitar behind me, the very first Futura I ever built, named after my dad's car, designed after my dad's car, has my father's ashes in it. And today's his birthday, so happy birthday, Pops. A guitar is a tool. If you pick it up and you start playing differently, or it just inspires you to play, period, that's what makes it a good guitar. Someone said the other day they were playing one of my guitars and they said there's a lot of songs in this thing. That's a good guitar. I want this to be my source of meaning. There's been a lot of different versions of me, and this one right here I like. It's been a really cool journey, and I thank everyone who's been along for the ride. Anybody who wants to come by my shop, call me. I'll be glad to, sit and talk. I enjoy having people around. I enjoy meeting new people. I think that's one of my favorite things about this. The guitars are important, but I think those relationships are just as important.